Welcome to the International Black Summit Interview Series podcast. For those of you who aren't familiar with us, the International Black Summit is an organization created in 1991, and our purpose is to provide an opportunity for our participants to bring into being their vision for the Black community and the world. In this interview series, we interview current and past participants and facilitators of the International Black Summit, really looking to find out how they use the tools and distinctions of the International Black Summit in their lives, in their careers, in their families, in their communities. Tonight, we're going to be interviewing MICHAEL Walker and Willa Strong, a couple who met through the International Black Summit when they were young people, and we're going to find out how they have continued to use the International Black Summit tools in their lives. So I just want to say a little bit about them and read their biography here, and then we'll ask them to join us in our virtual studio. So here's what we have. Mike Walker, 44, is a native of Brooklyn, New York, and his lovely wife, Willa Strong, 43, is a native of Chicago, Illinois. A chance meeting at the International Black Youth Summit in Philadelphia in the year 2000 led to a 20-year friendship and 17 years of marriage and counting. They have 3 lovely daughters and a newborn son. You might also want to check out their podcast. They have a podcast that they host called Curse Words and Craziness, which is a dynamic and artistic look into what it takes to care for 3 teenagers on the autistic spectrum. The website, their website, will be relaunching this September 2023 with all of its content and products. On Saturday evenings, they also host a special needs family group on TikTok. And the @name for their TikTok is @YamainManMike. You can look for them there. Also, Willa is authoring her first book, Child of the Universe, and her first book is due out this September 2023. So we'd like to welcome Mike Walker and Willa Strong to join us in the virtual studio. So if we could ask them to now join us and turn on their video and their microphone, that would be wonderful. There they are. And so we'll just have them.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Good.
Yay!
Right,
Yay! Welcome, welcome.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. That intro made us very proud. We were high-fiving ourselves over here. About that.
As you should. Right. As you should, because we're very, very proud of all of your accomplishments, and we'll get started with that as well. But kudos to all the things that you're doing inside of our community and as well.
Thank you.
And we get to see that your new son is with us this evening, so he gets to have this is his first interview.
Yes.
I hope this is his first interview.
It definitely is. It definitely is. He's, I guess, the podcast veteran now. He didn't already started before he turned 1.
All right. Beautiful.
Yes.
So we wanted to ask you, just in terms of giving people a sense of what's available in the International Black Summit, how people have being exposed to it. I usually like to find out, and I think this is true for Glenn too, how did you first find out about the International Black Summit? Like, what was your first exposure to the summit, your first summit event, all of that?
You want to go
first? About that first.
Okay. Wow. My first, so how I was exposed to the summits? 2 dear friends of mine, Falami and Jermaine Saunders. Their father, Oren Saunders, was a senior facilitator at the time. This has to be, oh my gosh, now I'm starting to feel old. This has to be in 94 or 95.
Fresh.
Yeah.
Yes, I was very young. So Jermaine is a great friend of mine, Falami, great friends of mine. Jermaine, knowing who I am, says, some friends of mine are having a party at this hotel. Why don't you come down? I was like, party?
A party.
I'm ready to go. Let's go. So I get down there. I think it was at the Seaport Inn. I could be wrong.
What city
it was
this?
in a city in New York. It was in New York at the time. And I think it was a planning body meeting. And he fooled me to coming down there for a party to introduce me to the summit, to the youth summit. And it worked. It worked because it was just a bunch of young people from different cities, a bunch of young Black people from different cities, pretty much hanging out and talking. And at the time, I was a little resistant because it was like, oh, I kind of came in on getting in some people's business. But, the other young people in the room welcomed me in and told me, like, there's nothing here that you don't really need to not know about. So sit down and discuss. And if you have a feeling about something, let it out. And it snowballed from there. I almost got addicted to the room, addicted to the conversation. And I really haven't stopped using it since then. I don't know how to cut it off. I don't even know if that makes sense. I'm always involved in the conversation in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, that was about 95, and it just really snowballed from there. And then in
2000, the year 2000, so that's when I joined the crew. The beginnings for me started with family. So my aunt Aletha was attending the International Black Summit. She brought her children to the youth summit, my cousins who I grew up with as sister and brother, Pondway and Kenneth Gibson. And one summer I was talking with Pondway, and Pondway's like, if you know Pondway's like, well, what you doing? You know what I mean? You doing anything? Come with me, and she brought me to Pennsylvania. That was the year 2000. And I thought that space was so phenomenal. I thought there was the most phenomenal group of young Black people. I feel like I found my tribe, how you could be on this earth and like, well, who's in tune, and not just with the youth, but also the adult body. The adult body, when I looked at the time, they were dreamy, like all of you. When I used to see all of you guys and all the adults in the room, it just seemed very dreamy. It's like, oh my goodness, who are these space age futuristic Black people here? Like, what is going on here? So that's my beginnings right there.
And let me tell you something real quick. We are a little upset because we've seen some of you guys for 20 years and y'all all look the same, but we don't look the same no more. I don't know what happened with that, but that's how it happened.
Look, we grew up.
It looks the same to us.
They all just stay the same.
It's just temporary.
Still calling you.
It's just
adult body.
I think you still refer to us as young people. So sometimes I get a little like,
we're still the youth, right?
Yeah, I will admit I'm the one who's regularly correcting people. They are not youth anymore. These are some grown folks.
Right?
And Willa, how old were you at the time?
I was
19?
Oh goodness.
20.
20. I was 20 years old.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yes, I was about 16.
And you were 16 when you started. Okay, great.
Yeah. But when we met, I wasn't 16. I mean, I wasn't 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to do a little math. Okay, 1994, 6 years, 2000. Yeah, so just to clarify, like I said, for people who are listening, there are multiple bodies in the International Black Summit. So we have the main adult body for anyone over the age of 18 through senior years. We have the adult body. Within that, we also have a young adult body from 18 to 35. So between the ages of 18 and 35, you have a choice. You can either go into the regular adult body or you can choose to go into the young adult body. But before the age of 18, from the ages of 8, is it 8 or 7, Glenn? The youth body.
We allow, yeah, it's usually 8, but we allow 7. We've had 7, some 6-year-olds in there, and they've contributed, just like the older kids as well. So we just include them and love them up and have them be great.
Okay, so officially it's from the age of 8 to 17, the youth body. That's great. So and the youth body used to run from 8 to 24, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Does it still run from 8 to 24, Glenn?
The youth?
The youth, or does it end at 17?
No, it ends at 17 because the young adult space, and so if there's any confusion about it, when we went over to Africa, and they said, and we said we had a youth summit, and so they started directing their 20-year-olds and 23 and so on and so forth. And they said, well, no, they're not youth. They said, no. In this country, you're a youth till you're 35. So Wambui, who was part of the youth summit, aged out past 17 and created the young adult space. So that's how the young adult space went from 18 to 35 as a space for people looking to find themselves as young adults.
We remember Wambui when she came in the room, like when she first got there. I remember Wambui very distinctively. And yeah, I was laughing at the discussion of the young adult space because we were there for the birth of that. We were a part of
tell us a little bit about the birth of that.
It was Wambui.
It was that, so it's beautiful because the summit is everybody.
It's international.
Okay. And so she was putting us onto a different viewpoint to look at, because here in America, like, oh, you're 18, let's get it straight.
You're an adult.
So the way she broke it down to us, it was like, oh, and how culturally it's like, yeah, this is how we treat young people. They're young. Yeah, they're young. And it was just a beautiful
and with that understanding, I'll tell you what it did for me personally. It gave me some grace as an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old, and understanding that in somebody's eyes, I was still a youth, and some of the pressures of adulthood I did not have to take on. I could understand that I was supposed to make mistakes. I'm supposed to need guidance. I'm supposed to.
Yes.
And so, that was kind of the gift she gave for me personally. Like, I'm like, oh no, 18, I got to get it all together. No, you don't. You still a youth. That's a real thing. So that was, I very distinctly just remember we had a lot of deep discussions about creating that space.
Yes.
And the need for that space. And it was great. I'm so glad that it's existing.
Yeah.
It's got a life of its own right now. I'm very glad about that.
It's so interesting. I mean, just to mention that Wambui was Kenyan. And so she was bringing her perspective as somebody who's from Kenya, from East Africa, had a different cultural background, although she was attending university in the United States when she went to Spelman. But her ability to bring a different perspective in terms of the international aspect of the International Black Youth Summit or Young Adult Summit. So, and I'm international. I'm here in Canada, representing international.
Nice. we went to the summit in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Yeah, we loved it.
2013.
Oh yeah.
We had a great youth summit in Ottawa, quite a big summit there. But since we're on Wambui, I wanted to just, when we're in Kenya, and for those of you who don't know, we have separate rooms. So we invited the youth to their own space. So they have their own space and they get to talk, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But one of the things that was so fascinating about the Kenyan youth is when on Sunday, normally what we have is the youth come in, and say a little bit about what they learned, what they, any kind of skills or tools that they might have picked up on. And one of the things that Wambui said was that she wanted to be the first female president of Kenya. And
Yep.
and her parents were like, is that my child up there speaking that, that powerfully? And
Yeah.
so those are the kinds of things, the kinds of results that get produced in the Youth Summit.
Yep.
So I actually wanted to kind of put you guys on the spot and ask you, when you look back at those first skills that you got out of the Youth Summit, what would you say were the most pronounced or the ones that stayed with you the most in terms of skills that you learned the first few sessions of the Youth Summit?
The annual summit event, yeah.
You are definitely hitting on it right now, which is to make declaration, to make declaration for your life and to do so without limitation. In being a young Black person in America or in Kenya, obviously all across this world, for us to declare ourselves in this world for who we see ourselves to be or who we choose to be was very important. And so that was the time for me of doing the same thing. I think I created one of my first affirmation boards in like 2001. And part of that affirmation board included becoming like one of the greatest authors in the world, right? So what I learned how to do is to make powerful declarations for my life. And it definitely didn't feel like competing or anything, but if you heard Wambui make that declaration, it touched your soul, without even know, like I wasn't too aware of the state of Kenyans society or government or people, but she for her to say that was like, what are you talking? And then this is before we had a President Obama. Do you understand? So she had already made a declaration like that, which kind of in our mind,
she was the president.
It's like, no, and yes, a Black woman can be president. Are you kidding me? You're tripping. You know what I mean? And it is funny to have witnessed a president become a Black man become president here in the U.S. after hearing her make such a declaration. So that's what I took away from it for sure, was how to make powerful declarations for my life and to constantly affirm that, after declaring, and to make my affirmations around it.
Okay, so what I got from the summit that I always took with me. So in my first summit event, okay, I'm gonna stop mumbling. So when I was trying to join the youth body, at first I was turned away because I hadn't done the landmark forum, and but what I was able to do was sit in the room and listen to how the room was speaking and understand the language and get the distinctions and be able to apply them to what I was saying, what I was thinking, and how I was, engaging. And so I created in essence the prerequisite, right, by my presence. And I didn't know I could be so powerful. And it took me a while to get it, but that's what I really got from that space. And I always moved like that. So I since doing that at the summit at that young age, I can do that anywhere. You sit me in the room, allow me, and that's what it is. That's a distinction. I learned to listen. I learned to listen very well and use my listening skills to exercise moving about in any space. And it's a priceless gift. It's a priceless gift. It gets me jobs. It allows me to communicate in situations where things might be uncommunicatable, where things might be there might be friction. I know how to wait, listen, what to listen for, the triggers, listen, you know, and use those things. So I seriously have been using what I learned in the summit body every day of my life, every day.
That's amazing. You know, I feel like we live in a society that has often talked about the power of talking. You know, like this, you know, like power is kind of associated with being at the front of the room, being the one at the podium, being the one that's talking, being the one that's expressing, etc. And I don't feel like in this society, people really appreciate the power of listening. Yes. I don't know if that's true around the world. This society, I don't think that people appreciate the power of listening.
I wasn't good at it,
Agreed.
But I had to, in order to become a youth facilitator once, I had to spend the entire summit not speaking in the room, being present, but not sharing. And it was hard. But it was oh God, it was hard. It was hard. I kept a notebook. I frantically wrote stuff down. And sometimes but what I learned, if I let it happen, if I stayed in that, somebody will always say what I was thinking. Like what I was thinking would always make its way out into the space and it would get out there. And yes. At that age, I would be like, you know, like, yeah, thank you. Oh my God, I've been waiting. But I realized that, oh man, sometimes you don't really have to say nothing. Sometimes listening can really be the answer to it. Or just.
And I want to support what you're saying, because for me, in my learning over the years is that, you know, leading to my spiritual growth is that, you know, God is the ultimate listening. So to exercise listening, you know, is such a divine connection to everything, to anywhere you are. So yes, we are as a society, we have grown apart from that because everybody does
want to be
have
heard.
a need to be heard. But the balance definitely, and I believe our society will do, and the summit space holds, which we'll carry with us, is the listening. So
yeah, I just want to underline for folks who are listening for the first time. So listening is one of the distinctions inside of the summit, and what you'll hear us say oftentimes is that we have nothing to give you, but together we can listen together and learn together what's possible, because what shows up in the space is for us, for both of us, and so that the facilitating and the receiving, the participants, we're all in it together, listening for what's possible, listening for what's unpredictable, listening for what we can't imagine, but together as a collective, the imagining grows wider than a personal, and we glean from all of that. Go ahead, back to you, Jackie Grace.
Thank you. You know, I just want to look at the whole conversation around listening as a distinction, and the distinction authentic listening, which is what it is about. The prerequisite is entirely about authentic listening. And so you talked, Mike, about being the one who was the seed for the creation of the prerequisite. Can you say a little bit more about that?
What I remember is I wanted to be a member of the youth body, but at the time there was, I guess, a bylaw that stated that, you know, you needed to go through the landmark forum in order to be able to participate in the international summit. And that wasn't something I had done, or to be quite honest, was willing to do. I didn't think I needed to. I'd been to a few planning body meetings, and a bunch of planning body meetings, and a summit or two before I wanted to come on as a facilitator. And I felt like I didn't need to go through the landmark forum in order to understand what was going on in the room. And at the time, there was a belief that that's what you needed in order to have that. And so the youth body was like, well, so if we were gonna indoctrinate our own people without having to send them to landmark forum for, at the time, some of us wasn't affordable. You know, I was a real youth, you know, and the truth is this was something I was doing on my own. So I had my parents' support, but I really couldn't take anything financially from my family to put toward this. But I knew this was something I needed and wanted. And so the youth body start coming up with some of the adult body as well, because Glenn was there. We start coming up with, okay, so what questions do we need to ask? What distinctions do you need to have in order to walk into the summit space and quote unquote function? You know, so what do you need to know? You need to understand trigger. You know, because that was a big word that we were throwing out in order to get everybody to understand how you were being triggered, what was pulling your emotions, what was making you do so on and so forth. So we start listing certain distinctions that we needed people to get before they would be able to come into the space. We start coming up with a series of questions, a series of exercises that would, I guess, the way I see it, indoctrinate you into understanding the International Black Summit space. And, you know, I know that conversation started because of me, because I came in there and I understood. Because I came in there and I was able to understand the language. I was able to kind of pick out the distinctions and at my first real summit event, when it was time to do the declaration, I didn't know the declaration, but I didn't want to seem as if someone who didn't know the declaration. I wanted to fit in. So I was a theater major. And so when you do theater, they teach you, if you don't know the words, like if the group is singing the song and you don't know the words, if you mouth watermelon in rhythm with what's being said, you know, you'll be able to kind of fool everyone. And so as they were doing a distinction, I caught the rhythm, because there's a beautiful rhythm to the distinction, to the declaration. It's a beautiful rhythm to the declaration. And so I caught the rhythm and I was able to, you know, watermelon my way through. And I'll never forget, somebody was like, you know, look, young brother, we are impressed. You've been here a couple of days and you already know the declaration. Like, that is amazing. It's a beautiful thing. And this is how I know I was in the right place. To be quite honest, this is how I know I was in the right place. Because immediately after that was said, I was like, thank you, but I'm gonna tell y'all, like, I can't
True story.
let that one.
True story. That's right.
I gotta stay in my truth, because hindsight, I was looking for that. I was looking for a space where I didn't have to watermelon no more. And so I told them, I was like, listen, I watermelon my way through. I don't know the declaration, you know, but I wanted y'all to accept me. I wanted to fit in. And the beautiful thing is the room cracked up. Everybody was just like, oh, that's great. So for my first few summons, I was Watermelon Mike. That's who I was. I was Watermelon Mike. And it was just, hey, like I you know, I got through it. I memorized it at some point. I did have it. I had it down because I knew. But it was, I knew I was home. I knew I was kind of home after that. Like, oh, this is a space that I could really, you know, obviously grow into. And I met my wife.
My God.
And Mike, I got to tell you, I've used it a couple of times myself.
It works. It works. If you catch it. Yeah, and you give a little feel to it. It can really, you can sell it. You can sell it.
You know, you said something that I just thought, it really touched me. The whole, like, not wanting to watermelon through life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like not wanting to have the mask on, not wanting to have to pretend like you got it all together, not having to, like, to just be able to be like, look, man, I was watermelon.
I know.
Like to
I
bring that
tried.
level of authenticity.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I credit the space for helping create that for me. You know, it was, you know, I'll say this about my relationship with my wife. I understood that I couldn't watermelon my way through a real relationship if I wanted one. You know, I couldn't, I just had a discussion with a young cousin of mine. I don't believe in the representative. You know, I don't believe in quote unquote putting your best foot forward. You know, you're gonna get whatever foot I got at the time we meet and where I'm at. That's the foot you're gonna get. That's and I believe if somebody could love you through that or love or see a space to love you past that, then you know you got something that could be something.
You know, my mind is going in a number of different directions. First, what a great story. I'm definitely going to talk about watermeloning something. Oh, I watermelon. I'm taking that on. I'm refusing to watermelon through this one. And we will, for those who are listening, we will be looking at the declaration at the end of the session. So you can hang on. We will be looking at the declaration. You can find out what that is at the end of the session, and all of the words of that. But I really, first of all, Mike, thank you for being the seed for the creation of the prerequisite.
My pleasure.
Baby.
I came to that realization like 6 years ago. Seriously, I was like, yo, I think I see the yeah, I did.
Well, thank you for doing that. You know, like you said, at one point in our history, you had to complete the Landmark Forum course before you could attend the annual summit event, which is the summit's flagship event, although we have other events as well. And that's no longer true. We then had a period of time where you could either do the Landmark Forum or the International Black Summit prerequisite that was birthed out of the seed that you generated. And then it became had to do the International Black Summit prerequisite. The Landmark Forum was no longer useful as a prerequisite. And now we're still in an exploration. As we speak today, it's not a requirement to do the prerequisite before attending the annual summit event, but it is highly, 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 highly recommended so that you can go into the space up to speed and really able to fully engage in and understand the conversation as it's moving. So, so where do you want to go next, Glenn?
I've got a question. You know, one of the things that I've been talking about and different people have been talking about, mental health and having a space to clear and talk.
Yes.
What would you say inside of the youth space that was one of the things that freed you up to say what that you wanted to say, that you felt comfortable enough to say? Tell folks a little bit about what that was like for you at that age, to have the opportunity to just speak freely.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I'll be going first with that one. So yeah, of course, I don't know, like the summit came at a time, Pawe had asked me to come to this space at a time where I was transitioning from that child into the young adult stage, right? And I was basically kind of on my own. And actually what I get to reflect on, a lot of things that I'm reflecting on in my book were some of the things that I was coming with to the summit space, these impactful moments that I wasn't really sure how it would impact me. I just simply gone through it, and the summit, honestly, it was a lot. It was I won't say a lot. It just had a great structure, from the prerequisite to asking this question, and the year 2000, the question, it was along the lines, what are you passionate about? What are your passions? And so, much like seeing a counselor or psychologist, like when somebody asks you something, and the answer is there is with you. And the space was also created such that you can answer how you need to answer. You hear that question as you need to hear it. And so I do give credit to those youth facilitators and the adult youth facilitators in the room. That space was held, and it felt divine. It was like this very divine celestial space to be in. It was like, oh, really? No, I answer those questions, and this is my life. And so that is what gave me the freedom. And it allowed, with the prerequisite, with those terminologies like trigger, today people use that more commonly, right? They're learning how to use those things more commonly. It wasn't common at the time. And so to get the exposure to, okay, what is a trigger? And then to begin to get the language, that's what helped me to open up. Because then you bring that distinction, you say, okay, well, oh, wait, I'm triggered right now. And so there's so much discovery in learning what triggers you, and learning what your listening is for, who it's to. And yeah, so I would say that's how it was just a perfectly structured space. And I do say structure, but it was a space that still allowed for freedom, which I felt the essence and the spirit of freedom all through that space. It's so much, I'm very empathic. So it is so much wonderful energy moving when you have a summit conversation, when a summit is happening and you begin to ask those questions like that.
So as a youth, as I'm really sitting thinking, I was really combative. I had a combative personality. I'm from Brooklyn, so it's the little bit of jump up in me, and being in a space that didn't care about that was very healthy. Being in a space of other youth who had some of the similar energy, and then some different energy. That energy that when I'm trying to be combative, they're reflective. And that somebody in particular, I'll just mention them, Malika, was annoyingly good at sometimes facilitating me and being able to give a reflection that I wasn't ready to see but needed to see, and didn't allow for my combative nature to trigger her at all. Like there was no because of my trigger trying to transfer the energy, it didn't happen. And it helped me grow. The space and relationships I created in that youth body helped me grow in ways that I could only look back and see. I'm kind of really reminiscent. Wambui was really a great facilitator for me because of her willingness to like not care. And I mean, I say not care, but that's the wrong wordage. Carefree. But to be carefree about how harsh I could speak, about how blunt I may be. Those things didn't matter. Yeah. She was able to see through my triggers and understand why and be able to show me something that I'm truly, truly grateful for. Truly, truly grateful for. I think it's the things that help make me a better father. It's the things that help me be able to clear about my actions with my wife. It's endless. It's really an endless gift that I was given because I feel like really because I started so young. To be introduced at 16, to that type of space, to being able to have that type of freedom, to being able to express failure, regret, joy, happiness, all in the same space. And I want to say get the same reaction. Like, sometimes you can express those things and get different pulls of energy from people, but this room, this space always gave me the same thing. And it always felt like, yo, it's okay. That's how you feel. It's okay. Yeah. Oh, I feel that's how you feel. It's okay. But ain't I wrong? Maybe, but it's okay.
I got you. Yeah.
You know, like I really needed that freedom, and that I really know that it helped mature me. It still helps mature me. I still have to clear myself. It's not like a ending process, you know. So I feel so blessed to be able to have started it so young that I feel like I've had a head start in certain things. And I want to teach it. I want to teach it to my son desperately. I want to, you know, I spread it. I spread the conversation everywhere. 15 minutes at Walmart, you talk to me, I'm trying to get you clear. Even if it's real quick, you know, man, this money is hard. Where so you got a business? You know, like, you know, you could just complain about it, bro. But, you know, you could also get a couple of solutions in there. You know, there's a, and, you know, it's sometimes just so that you think about it, so that the next time you see me, you know, and I've had it happen, coworkers who I've passed once or twice, give them a piece of the conversation, a piece. And it's so true that the next time they see you, they be like, yo, man, I went online and I started this. It's like, you see, bro? Exactly. And so, like, yeah, it's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing.
So let me unpack two of the distinctions that you talked about. So trigger, and these are words. I love what Jackie Grace always says about it. And these are words that we use in the English language all the time, but we use it in a particular way inside of this body, and we use trigger as a reflection of what has something that you're unable or unwilling to be with, and so you're in a conversation and you notice that you're now somewhere else, so you've been triggered, and the person might have said a word. One of the things used to trigger me was divorce. And so I hear divorce, and wherever I was in the conversation was gone. I'm now out in another conversation called my divorce and what happened and the drama and so on and so forth, and not being present. One of the things that we use with trigger is a distinction called noticing. I get to notice myself in, oh, I just got triggered. Oh, excuse me, Mike. Excuse me, Willa. I wasn't present. Let me get back to being present with you so I can be in the conversation with you, because I was triggered and I noticed I was triggered and I came back to the conversation. Now, inside of that also, now I still may be in my trigger when I come back to the conversation. So maybe Mike might say, well, Glenn, do you need to be clear? Do you need to clear yourself? So clearing yourself is now looking at what's that dominant conversation that's rifling in your head, and you can't do anything but that conversation. You want to just kind of quiet that conversation. You want to relax, maybe take a couple deep breaths, maybe, just do a little, 30-second meditation or something to bring yourself down, to relax, so you can then begin to be present. Because the thing that we've noticed about life is when you're not present, you're missing it. And if you're missing life, there's nothing for you, to grab onto, to appreciate, I just had a great moment. But if you're not present, that moment is gone, because you're inside your trigger, or you're not clear, or you're noticing something else other than being present. And so these tools that we provide you so that you stay present to the conversation, because that's where the power is. That's where the staying power is. And you can't be in relationship with anything or anyone if you're not present. So I just wanted to clear that up for those who are listening to this anew. And this is part of what we do inside of the Youth Summit. One of the other things, I didn't say this earlier, but I was one of the adult youth facilitators. Joy and Chikesha, there's a couple of us around that have been in this particular designation. And one of the things that for me is very, very important is that we have young people stand up and speak to their peers. So it's actually like, you know, public speaking is one of the things that adults are scared with, much less young people. And so I think one of the things that I think is monumental in getting your that expression out there is go to the front of the room and speak to the body, or at least stand and speak to the group. And that instills some confidence, some that people really do want to hear what I have to say. And inside of this and as Mike and Willa both said, this is a sacred place. This so they can speak whatever's there, what's going on with them, to any particular degree. So I love
I
that.
remember,
Yeah, go ahead.
I can remember as a young teenager in the space trying to discredit the voice of somebody younger than me. And I remember it was me. And I will never forget the power in which, and this was somebody maybe 9, 10 years old, and the power from which they spoke, and the words of not wanting to be silenced due to anything, due to my age, my size. It was super powerful. I felt so small after trying to play so big, man, what I'm talking about is this, man, what you talking about is, I go, and it was a great understanding for me, and the ability to be so young and have yourself be heard is a big confidence builder. And I think a lot of our young people, I think that's what you see in the expression of the youth that are pushing all of the quote unquote Black Lives Matter movements, all of the protests that have been happening in the years past. Like, those are youth that want to be heard. And that's what's so important about a space like the International Black Youth Summit. We are heard. We are really heard. That's really important.
Really important. It's interesting. You talk about having these conversations with people at Walmart or wherever, your coworkers, like always carrying that conversation with you, the International Black Summit conversation with you. And Deborah Smalls, a former facilitator and ongoing facilitator of the International Black Summit, she used to have an expression being a summit facilitator in the field. Like a summit you can be a summit facilitator in one of our events in the room, but she used to talk about being a summit facilitator out there in the field, out there in the world. She was a summit facilitator out there in her work. You're a summit facilitator out there in Walmart, out there with your coworkers, in your family, with your teenagers. So I wanted to ask, I look at, first of all, I'm just adoring looking at you guys as a couple with the baby. Like, it's just like picture perfect. It's like you need to take a picture and put it, it's like the perfect picture that when you buy the frame, there's already the perfect picture in there.
Thank you.
Like, it's just beautiful. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but the summit, the International Black Summit, initially was created out of a conversation around relationships between Black men and Black women. We won't get into that right now, but look at what you guys are representing. It's just beautiful. So wanted to ask you guys a little bit about the work that you do, first being parents to your 4 children, and also the podcast cast and the family group that you guys are working with. And I say you're kind of doing it as facilitators in the field. So
I totally agree with that. I think it's very interesting that you mentioned Deborah. Her son was one of my best friends, and he's definitely a part of what cultivated me to having the conversation everywhere you go. Like, it doesn't it didn't make sense to find gold and not take it with you. You know what I mean? Like, so if you, and to me, the conversation was gold, you know, so to not take it with me everywhere was foolish. But one of the ways that I feel fortunate is that my family, meaning mother, father, sister, they're very receptive to, you know, to the conversation I was having with the summit without having to go to the summit. You know, I like to sometimes break the summit conversation down into layman's terms, so to speak, you know, so that I think a lot of times what used to scare people was the conversation, or should I say the wordage. You know, people can, and that's why the prerequisite was always good. People can sometimes, you know, feel like you're trying to talk smarter than them. Oh, what you mean triggered? Especially, and, you know, I'm not really talking about today. I'm talking about in a time where the word wasn't used more. What you mean, you know, having to explain it in I guess layman's terms is the best way. I was very good at that. I'm very good at using whatever language you use to get you to understand what the conversation is. You know, sometimes the words aren't important as much as the conversation is important. You know, so even with my wife, sometimes the words we use aren't what we really trying to say. You know, we just in a space where these words are in the way, and then sometimes it'll take me noticing, oh, no, that's not what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. You know, so being able to. So yeah, I use the, I'm kind of babbling, so excuse me. I use the codage in order to have the conversation spread everywhere. That's how I use it in my podcasting. That's how I use it in our support group. So some people might not understand triggered. They'll understand bothered. You know, I don't get caught up in the wordage. I get caught in the conversation. And really what I'm caught in is getting clear, you know, understanding that, you know, just being is enough. You know, being in the space, being with what's happening, you know, being a father, being a husband, you know, being is you know, sometimes enough. And the conversation, the wordage, those things help me with that. They help me in podcasting. They help me in talking to my wife. They help me in dealing with 3 autistic children who are nonverbal.
Yes.
Which is really why.
Okay. Speak to it.
You know, using, you know, sometimes getting past the wordage is important for me. You know, I don't always need the wordage. I need to get to what's about what we need to get clear about. You know, having 3 daughters who don't speak, you know, sometimes I can't wait for the words. Sometimes I never can wait for the words. You know, I have to use my other listening.
Yes.
You know,
so it's about listening. So we'll apply this to what we're doing so that I help my husband not babble so much.
Yes,
right?
Thank you.
So in our everyday parenting life, again, what has us share so much at this time of our lives via the support group is a special needs family support group, which is a reflection of who we are. We are a family with 3 teenagers who are on the autism spectrum, and they all happen to be nonverbal. Okay, so in this space of, you know, you're in the summit and you're using words, you're telling people to get up and say something, and you know, so in a world where my children don't use words, like how do we do that, you know? And so the listening part comes in. So that's like one of we took what we have from this summer space, and we both happen to be great listeners. So we're listening. And listening is what? It's not just the ear part, it's kind of looking at what they're doing and saying, okay, I see you. This is the direction you're going in. This is this thing that you want. This is how badly you want it, or how, you know, passionately, you know, you want this thing here. So that has helped us from the both of us. And sometimes we're listening without giving them a chance to talk. So that's one of those balances we have to figure out in allowing them to be independent, you know. So it's like we're so good at the listening thing that we kind of just taken, you know, not giving them a chance to fully make their requests at times, but it also allows a space of freedom for them. They can have a bad day. We actually endure a lot of things that a lot of other parents with special needs cannot. You know, the not talking, the acting out when a special needs child or someone who's nonverbal cannot be heard. Okay. We're able to we have more tolerance than most people. And that's something that we've learned just sharing in our group. Okay, so that's the parent aspect of it. When you all talked about mental health and just, you know, in the state of mental health in this whole world today, right? And just how important these summit conversations are to the world and very much needed, you know. So with the support group, that's what we're about. We're like,
it's our ministry. It's our ministry to the world.
It is. And so we are bringing that conversation in the space of like, we take a moment if we can, and within that hour, it's like, yeah, we're here, we're your clearing. We are your clearing. You come here to clear, you know, and we will listen. Present, right. And so that's what that hour of being on social media is all about. And I get, you know, we're not like this popular live group, but it's like the people that come, they get us, and then we share completely with them. We serve as a reflection of them, and we get to know them as such. Like, yeah, we want the best for you.
And understanding that a lot of families like ours could sometimes feel alone and feel like nobody understands and nobody's listening. You know, nobody could really get what I'm going through. It's like, no, we get it.
Yes. And so
we get it, and it's okay.
Yes, we serve as a listening, and we serve as a clearing in that space. So
now the podcast is that is our
creative baby.
Yes, that is our creative expression. That is our letting our hair down. That is understanding that what it is to be for us in this lifestyle is sometimes some curse words, it's sometimes some craziness, you know, it's sometimes singing a crazy song, it's sometimes, yes, my daughter is up at 3:31 a.m. asking for snacks in the kitchen, and I'm too tired to handle it, but I gotta handle it. Yes. It's you know, it's that thing to help you laugh, you know, because we need joy.
Yeah.
We definitely need joy. Happiness and health are A1. Hey, be quiet, boy.
Yes. And so when you talk about that mental, you know, the podcast is also for our mental health as well. It's actually, you know,
it's how we don't go crazy because of all the curse words we have to say sometimes.
You know, so that we named it after that, because it's like, where's the peace in the world of curse words and craziness?
Right.
You know, in the world of craziness, in a world where, oh, motherfucker, you know, so where's the peace in that? So that's what we really kind of keep underlying. That's what it's all about actually. So.
Yeah, it's really just finding a way to keep that joy, keep that laughter. Yeah. And, you know, you gotta laugh. Laughter, you need that. It's healthy. It's healthy. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little still caught in my feelings. Our oldest dog actually passed this morning.
Today.
Ooh.
And,
oh my, sorry to hear that.
We unexpectedly had to take her to the vet, and you know, she didn't come home. Yeah. So it's
we're mourning.
We are definitely in mourning. Yeah. And it's just been a long day today. It's been I'll tell you this, sharing all this stuff in this space is very helpful and healing for me. I didn't want to start the conversation with, oh, my dog died, but I knew it would come a time where I would, you know, feel the need to share that was definitely heavy on our heart. It had me be present to, well, I'll share. It had me be present to the joy I want to spread, in particular with my family. I am a dialysis patient, and I do dialysis 4 to 5 times a week at home. I sometimes am ill during the day, and during my illness, I get ornery. I get very angry. And sometimes sometimes it's never really anybody's fault, why I'm angry. It's because that's the easiest way that I deal with pain is anger. And it's funny that my dog passing today had me be present to how I don't want to spread that anger anymore. I really don't want to give that to my wife and my kids and even my young puppy. I don't want to give angry, hurt man. And that is really what I became present
as
to.
we keep to the conversation. It's like sometimes the hurt and pain of life can have you build up that watermelon, shield again. So that's another reason we started this special needs podcast, our special needs support group, and also Curse Words and Crazy is because it's more than just our children. It's also his state of health as well, that had us realize the mental issues of those who are actually who have the disability, from someone having an illness, a disease, a disorder. It's kind of acknowledging they are going through something themselves. They have their own mental battles to face. And I'm encouraging Michael to write a book as well, so to be reflective of the mental battle that he has endured at this time. I don't know if you all know, but he faces insomnia, depression, anxiety, and it's part because of his chemical makeup. When you're missing a kidney, and that's the reality. That's how whole the body works. It's like your chemical makeup just kind of puts you in a vulnerable space. Not having everything operate, not having your mind get all that, material and cell, sustenance that you need. So this is also relative to what we're doing with our support group and with our podcast. The very thing that he's sharing, just sharing how he doesn't want to be this angry person anymore. So I'm, of course I'm glad, of course I'm happy about that. So.
I've got a question for you guys. And actually it's a twofold question. Now that you're parents, what would you say to other parents about doing the International Black Summit? And then the flip side of it is, what would you say to parents about having their young people do the Youth Summit?
I would encourage the parents to go first. I would definitely encourage the parents to go first. First, you always want to understand what your kids are getting into. As a parent, I will always want to understand what my children are getting into. I think parents think they know their kids. Most parents would say they know their children. And going first would allow you to understand if it's a space for your children or if there's something your children could get from the space. I believe everybody gets something from the space. I just think, I would encourage anybody who doesn't think they can handle the conversations on their own, that the summit is a great space to get tools to engage with your young people in a different kind of way, in a special kind of way. Yeah, I would encourage this summit. Now that I kind of talked myself through it, I would definitely encourage the summit. I would say most parents should go first, but I would definitely encourage the summit as something that you should introduce your children to because just the language, the understanding of getting clear, you know, I feel like the summit has saved me some money in psychiatry. You know, I'm able to slowly, you know, and you know, the real truth is having a facilitator for a wife is has saved me a lot on my psychiatry bill, because we are really able to talk through a lot of, you know, what is going on with us. And yeah, definitely, you my psychiatrist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, I would say yes.
You
Go
said that you would recommend that the parents go first. Did your parents go before you?
No.
No, mine didn't either. But well, actually, no. Excuse me. My auntie is the woman that raised me, so she's my aunt mother. So yes, she did. She did come first, actually. So and she sent when she let her kid. You know, I'm her child, so it's like when she okays it, and she, you know, what she says today is that she knew that we needed that space, and she acknowledges it as the space that, you know, that's what she could not give us, was a way to, because we didn't talk like that in our home. And and part of the things that are in my book actually go over some of the things, like we weren't talking like that at that time. And maybe because you were too young, because my auntie didn't have the tools at that time. You know, she didn't go until I was 20 years old. No, she went before that, but it was like I was 20 and she was just now letting me know about it. So we had gone through a few experiences with, you know, a few traumas involved already. But the fact that she came and knew that it was a space that we needed to be in, I think that supports what he's saying. It's like, yeah, let the parents go, and some parents might not, you know.
Ironically, my parents engaged in a similar conversation in a different space. So as we were able to come together sometimes, and now I get it, why I was able to sometimes decode the language, because my parents spoke it in a different language. You know, they use different wordage. I use different wordage, but I started to get, oh, that word they're using means trigger. That word means this. That word means that. Oh, it's a different language, but it's the same conversation, the same thing. So my parents had a similar conversation, which allowed us to communicate, which allowed us to basically get clear on things. And so that is, yeah, that's why that's why it worked for me and my family. We found a way to have that communication. But yeah, I think parents should definitely go.
Yeah.
And
I think it can happen all kinds of ways, because again, my mother and father weren't directly there, but it was a space that I benefited greatly from. So I think it can happen. The breakthrough, first of all, if you're there and you're present, it can happen for whoever's present, you know, and whoever's listening. And whoever chooses, again, I know that was something we always came to, even in the youth body. It's like, well, if you want to, you know, if you choose to,
you can have a breakthrough.
You'll have it. And for some, it came naturally, for some more easier, for some, you know, by the end of the weekend, maybe on Sunday, you get, you know, have your breakthrough happen. Maybe it was after. And I just think in all ways that everyone should be welcome, because you know, I think it's happened in different ways for different people, and that's speaking for my the other youth participants as well, and myself.
One of my favorite stories is brother from Chicago. I put him out there. His name is Vibe. We were at, it was where is the summit where we met?
In Philly.
In Philly. He came on Sunday, and he came focused to get his breakthrough. Like he came, he stormed in the room, and it was like he kind of whirlwinded the space, and everybody was like, "Man, you just got here. What are you doing?" But it was like, "No, I came to get my breakthrough. I came for it. I'm finna get it. I don't care none of y'all. What? I'm here for my breakthrough. Okay, I'm about to break through." And
So
the
he
truth is,
came for day number 3.
he came for day number 3, and it was like, yo, I'm here. He didn't use this wordage, but you get by the actions and energy. Like he came for his breakthrough. Okay. He stormed in the room. He shook up the room. And it was like, we stood there, but through his breakthrough, all of us got a breakthrough. Because he came with such intention. And honestly, the room was a little kind of like fluffy at the time. It was nice. It was, oh, the flowers, we're doing good. Bob came through, boom, no, da da da. And we was like, da da da, da da da, da. But we all got that breakthrough. And it was one of my favorite moments of understanding, like, man, you could really come through with this and really get what you want from it. And he really knew what he wanted. He knew he needed this space to come through, to get clear so he could go back to Chicago. Because, I mean, it was the last day. It was the last day. He came, got his breakthrough. He's like, all right, cool. I go back to Chicago now. I'm going to be all right. And that's one of my favorite moments. That's one of my favorite stories. I like to see other people come to you for their breakthrough. And sometimes with that rambunctious energies. Well, all right. Well, it's all right. You want your breakthrough? We're going to get you there. So wait a minute. I got you. You want to talk? Okay, let's go. And, I know I come to my wife like that sometimes. And sometimes she will. You finished?
How about you, Willa? Do you also have a favorite story? That's a great story, Michael.
Thank you.
Oh, goodness. It's honestly from the moment I step into those spaces, the summit space, things just start happening. I'll say for me, like it is a dreamy, very celestial whole vibe and energy that I get there. I wouldn't say I witnessed breakthroughs more than I just experienced for myself, my own breakthroughs. And that was the magic for me. And of course, I can easily share in others' success and their, the beauty of their life and their transformation. But I know that I was, in need of one for myself. And it really started in Philadelphia for me. And I've been just on this cloud ever since, like just being able to express who I am, be who I am. And no particular thing, I think, I guess in a way, maybe, like I say, let's say 20, I started when I was 20, I'm 43, 23 years later, finally writing a book, right? Like I said, I had this declaration, I'm an author, I'm this, that, and this, and having life happen, and then being able to come to this space, to be an adult, and to come to this space comfortably and enjoy this space right here. And maybe that's like late blooming, maybe it's like, yeah, I got a lot of things there, but now, and I can have, nothing, so to speak. No, just starting from the base, this ground, this space right here. And I feel like I have an abundance of everything that I need because I can have a conversation, So that's the breakthrough for me. That's the breakthrough.
I'll tell you how we met. It was the Thursday night event. It was the Thursday night event. I'm 21. I'm from New York City. I got my whole check for the week. My whole check. I'm going to the summit. I had long locks at the time. My locks were done. I'm 21 years old. You can't tell me nothing. I'm the most beautiful chocolate thing walking the streets. So it's a Thursday night event. I know this is where, we kind of mingling, we dancing around.
Yeah, 70s night.
70s night.
Yeah.
So everybody's dancing, and I get to the ballroom at the Adams Mark Hotel, which was the oldest Black hotel in Philadelphia at the time. So I'm at the Adams Mark. First of all, let me say this. I loved rolling with the summit, like how I used to say it, because the places we stayed were the places that nobody else Black in town thought Black people stayed. And especially, and as a youth, you know how powerful it is to be somewhere and a bunch of other youth be like, well, where y'all from? Oh, I'm from New York. Well, where you staying? I'm staying at this place. Don't nobody black stay there. Man, come down there Saturday at this time. I'll be there. I'll let you in. You can come into a room. We'll talk about it. It was such a reason to stick my chest out. Just some of the places we stayed, you know, when you get to tell other youth that don't think black people stay there. It's like, no, we there. I got a room with 7 other people, but I got a room. It's a room. But so I go into the ballroom. The music is playing. They're dancing. Willa is dancing with another youth facilitator named Dawson at the time, and I'm like, wow, she's nice, right? So she was nice looking. Let me say that. I was like, she's nice. So this is the age of the disposable cameras. So I strategically take pictures of the youth to the left of her. Hey, what's up, y'all? Stand right there. Hey, all right. I strategically take pictures of the youth to the right of her. Hey, are you right there? Right, okay. Hey, Dawson, what's up, man? Hey, y'all stand right there. I didn't really want a picture of Dawson. I had a lot of pictures of Dawson. I didn't need another picture of Dawson, but I wanted a picture of the girl he was dancing with. So they took the picture together. It's funny. I had the picture for a long time. I don't think I have it anymore, but I took their picture, and then Dawson went to get them something to drink. So her and I kind of standing there on the dance floor. There's a little bit of awkward silence. So, you know, I muster up my 21-year-old courage. And I say to her, I don't mean to be too forward, but I think you are absolutely beautiful. And she was like, oh, thank you. And then I walked away. I left the room. I just left. It's like, I'm going. It's Thursday. So it's strategy. It's strategy. It's Thursday. We here for a weekend. So I was like, I'll just leave the line, get my Clark Gable on, and stroll out the room, you know, kind of cool, like, you know, boom. I mean, it worked. So, but I mean, how did you feel after I told you that? You remember that?
You know, it wasn't the first compliment I got. You know, and they're like, oh, I laid it on us. Like, I was 20 and I was looking good, and that wasn't the first. And he wasn't the first person at the summit. He's like, oh, you look nice. You know, you're beautiful. And so, thank you.
You were like, dude, get in line. I think you're number 12 in line.
Well, funny thing about that. So the weekend happens. We bonded over the weekend. You know, her and I end up spending a lot of time together. That's the rest of the weekend. And so it's like, I think maybe Monday or Tuesday, I decide I'm gonna call her. Right now, ironically, this is very much ironical. Dawson called her maybe 5 minutes before I called her. So, right. So our initial phone conversation was quite cold. She was kind of under the like, these dudes must be running game impression, trying to call me back to back. And so I remember, first of all, I remember being kind of infatuated with her. I was like, I really like this girl. I enjoyed our weekend. I want to talk to her all the time. And that wasn't normal for me. I was quite the hoe at the time. So, you know, being infatuated with one girl wasn't something I was used to. Wanting to always talk to one girl wasn't something I was used to. But I found myself wanting to talk to her and wanting to get to know her different than everybody else. And so after the first conversation, I got, oh man, I'm going to have to be really persistent. This is going to take work. So it started, you know, 3-minute conversation, 8-minute conversation because she got to go to class, you know, 12-minute conversation because, you know, we kind of ran out of stuff to talk to and don't want to do the dead air thing. 20-minute conversation, half an hour. And then all of a sudden, within a couple of, maybe a month or so, we were talking every day, a lot.
Running up phone bills.
She was in Chicago at the time, and I was in New York. And and Champaign, Illinois at college. And so that was August when we met.
Mm-hmm.
We talked on the phone up until October, where we met again in Oakland at the Plan and Body meeting in Oakland. And that was quite magical because you kind of talk to somebody for a while. And for me, you kind of like, you have this image of the person in your head, but you could be wrong. And they could not look like the image you've been holding for all these months. I don't understand how people do the internet thing. Just let me say that as a sidebar. I'd be so nervous. I was so nervous going to see her again because I was pretty much falling in love with her and wanted the image to match what was in my head, what I saw. And I remember coming into the Plan and Body meeting in Oakland and looking around the room for her and looking around the room. And when I spotted her, she was everything I'd imagined in my head and then some. And I was just like, it was that inner like, yes.
Oh my goodness. Why do I feel like this is our Valentine's Day episode? This is May.
I very much was like, yes. And I remember when she saw me, she kind of knew it was me and I knew it was her. And after Oakland, it was pretty much, that was it. I think we solidified being boyfriend and girlfriend in January. So it's like October and January, we solidified being boyfriend and girlfriend because I came to her school and stayed the weekend, and that was it. We've kind of been with each other ever since.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's my homie record.
Gorgeous.
Wonderful story, huh?
Gorgeous. You remember it that way, Willa?
I do. I kind of remember, like I said, when you're young, you can choose. And it was just, we had such a chemistry. I noticed his eyes first. So that was what, like I could see him in a room, because he has these domineering, like beautiful big eyes. And it happened like that. We talked, and we're talking about just sharing, being so comfortable sharing. So we had learned how to share,
Right.
in the summit, and we already shared. And I just felt so free being with him and sharing my life with him. That I knew, and I remember there was the exchange of, people like, oh, I can't say I love you. It's like, I love you. And I just said it very freely, not caring about what's going to happen. Will he love me back? I'm kind of good. It's like, I love this person. I'm going to let him know. And he helped make that just an easy thing to do, easy to love him, and it really did. It happened like that. To where we became good friends, and we had to keep up a relationship. We had to keep that authenticity long distance because we weren't in the same cities, and we live in cities, and there's people available in cities. So it's like we kept choosing each other in the midst of everything. And
I very specifically remember, we understood that I didn't want to do long distance. That was what was odd for me. I was very adamant. I ain't doing no long distance relationship. I live in New York. You kidding me? I'm not doing no long distance. But I remember going on a date early on and talking on the phone and not being present with the date at all because I wanted to get back to call her. And that's when I kind of knew, like, oh, I just need to stop. It's like, stop playing around. If I'm being honest with myself, if I'm having a clearing conversation with myself, this is the woman I choose. And if she chooses me back, I'm lucky and I'm blessed. And so I just focused on that. And here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah.
We didn't know we was going to have a son this late. I'm going to tell you that. We didn't know.
No. So it's
our son is one of those gifts that that come in his life that I don't think had nothing to do with us. We was just the vessels. And we just I'm grateful. I'm just so grateful to be that vessel and to get to share that with her.
Yeah.
Really, that's it.
Thank you both. Well, I'm grateful that you both spent this evening with us. And I'm sure I speak with Glenn when I say we're both grateful that you said yes to our invitation to be our guests tonight.
Always, I can't say no to family. This is a family space. I actually remember when my first daughter was born, there was a planning body meeting in Harlem. And I happened to be living in Harlem at the time. And I wasn't a member of the youth body at the time, but I remember I never left. I always hear what's going on. Oren is like a father to me. So I kind of keep my ear to where the summit is going to be and where the space is. And there was a planning body meeting in Harlem. And I remember getting the opportunity to come to the village and let them know, like, you know, we got one. We you know, my first daughter's been born, you know, and I came to share that with the village, and how that's always really special for me. It was
The summit is that. The summit,
that's
for
our
me
village.
in my life, yes, you are our village. And it is, you know, you can step away from your village, you come back home, and they're your people. They're the aunties and the uncles and the cousins, and the culture. There's a culture here in the summit that has remained and is still here. And every time we come back and we speak with you guys, or we see you all, it's like, oh, and when the minute you're like, yes, and clearing and present, I was like, yes, right. So you all are very much, you are the magic in my life. And that's for sure. You are the magic in my life, this space, the people in it that keep that magic going. Yes, I have to give this space the credit for having believe in a village, a family, that there's a family, that there's a tribe, that there's this space of like-minded souls and beings that I could connect with and feel so connected and feel loved and feel accepted. So you all are very much, this space is the reason that we are together, the reason that we have this family, the reason we can have these unique children and listen. It is the summit. It is, you know, it is this, it is you all, it is everything. And I can say that, like, I talk to Glenn a lot. I always see your face. I always see your face, Grace, but it's like we haven't had you know, you just one of those, like, we haven't exchanged, we had to have a conversation in detail, but I've always seen your face, so I'm like, yeah, that's family. I know her.
Family.
That's you know, I've seen her for years now, you know. So Joyce, Conrad, Bill, all of you all, it's like having seen you all for so many years now. It's like, yeah, these are my aunties, these are my uncles, you know, my youth people are my peers, my sister and brother. Me and Malika talk right now, you know. Alexis, when I started writing my book, I came, Alexis write books, you understand?
With
like,
an S.
Okay, she writes, and that was her declaration to help us, is that, yeah, make it easy. You know what I mean? It's not hard to write a book. What are you talking about? You know?
Get it done.
So This is my family, all of my family, and you are very much a core, very much a spark, very much a seed as to why him and I are here and why I have these children and how we make it. Your family.
Oh,
Definitely family.
Yes.
beautiful. I will say, for anybody who's listening, we have interviewed Malika Redmond and Alexis Gump. So they've been on the podcast. So if anybody's listening and they want to find out more or listen to those podcasts, you can find them on the YouTube channel, International Black Summit, or on any of the main podcast platforms, Spotify and others. So although we've never done this before, Glenn, but I would like to invite Mike and Willa to generate the declaration as we close.
Okay.
Would you be open to that?
Absolutely.
You know, and I'm clear they're not going to watermelon it. We'll bring it up on screen.
Bring it up now.
Bring it.
We will not watermelon.
Not watermelon.
Yes. Here we go. Oh, my
Okay,
goodness.
you
I
ready?
love it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
The Declaration
Of the International Black Summit. We declare ourselves, our community, and all communities whole and complete. There's nothing to do except be. We assert that we are responsible for generating community as possibility and distinction. We listen for and grant being the possibility and creation of unpredictable results. Our conversation of, about, and for those of African descent is one of power, self-generation, abundance, responsibility, unity, and integrity with the possibility of being. We stand for the expression of our spirituality, ending the murders of men, women, and children, building economies responsible for funding our community, maintaining wellness in our being, in our bodies, providing human services, establishing nurturing relationships, altering the conversation of who we are in the media, empowering our youth. We declare our community manifests itself in the world as contribution in the transformation of the universe.
Atlanta, Georgia, October 7th, 1991.
1991.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well,
Beautiful. I didn't see or hear a single watermelon. I thought that was perfect.
I mumbled a word or two, but the declaration is also what was so powerful about the space. When you repeat something like that over and over again, it's hard not to live into it.
It stays with you.
It stays with you. Some of the parts I could have forgot, I focus on daily.
There's nothing to do except
Be.
Nothing
ending the
except
murder
being.
of our different children. That just how present that is. The way that declaration speaks.
It speaks through time. It is one of the most timeless things that is a part of this conversation. And I that would be the first thing I will introduce to a parent. Now that I kind of read it again and get it again.
Yes.
Like, you want to know what this space is about? We declare this every time. This is what we're about every time. Anything we're doing, it goes back to this. It's a beautiful thing. That was powerful.
Yeah, it is.
Well, good. So I just want to thank you for coming on. I love you guys. Watch you grow up. Just so powerful to see your world citizens making things happen in your community, impacting people's lives, moving conversations forward. It's remarkable. And I just want to thank you for allowing this space to catapult you to where your lives are.
Yes.
So thank you.
We're grateful to the space. We're
Yes.
thankful to the space.
And thankful to adult. So if we talk about relationship to adults and youth, it's like, this is where you thank your parents and you're like, thank you all for creating that space, for digging within yourselves and seeing what vulnerability, what you wanted to improve, what you wanted to change, and having a space for your children so that they can grow, so they can get some tools for their life. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The space is one of the most remarkable places that's not a place.
Space.
It is a space but it's anybody that's thinking about visiting, want to bring somebody to it, do it. It's a beautiful space.
Be there.
It's a beautiful space. Be there. Just be there.
Yes.
We use the be in one of our businesses that we want to create. We're creating a space for autistic children and children with special needs called the Awesome Place to Be. You know, that's how influential the space is
Yes.
in our daily existence.
Yes.
You know, it's an awesome place to be.
Gotcha.
Well, thank you. Tonight on this podcast, this was an awesome place to be with you guys. So thank you again for being here. And we're going to end the session there. Thank you to everyone. It was awesome to be with you guys who listened, who are either with us live right now as we record this, or if you're listening later or watching us later on YouTube or Spotify or Buzzsprout. Thank you for being with us. We're going to end the recording now, and then afterwards we'll continue with an informal Q&A, short informal Q&A if we can, with the people who are with us live. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.